This video is brought to you by Squarespace. This is Bart. He's an award-winning artist. He's had a pretty long, successful career. You should be like Bart. I've been trying to be like Bart for most of my life. Bart happens to be my dad. He's done some pretty amazing things, even won some big awards. Here he is back in 1986, getting presented one from Howard Cosell.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Sport Artist of the Year, Mr. Bart Forbes.
So yeah, that's my dad. He doesn't know that I'm making this video. It'll be an interesting surprise. We have talked about maybe getting him to come on to this show, but when I get into trouble with things or I don't know which direction to go with something, and this could be like personal, it could also be art related, I just think to myself, well, be like Bart. So yeah, my dad has had a very long and successful career in an area that's actually very hard to make a living in. He's done commercial work for magazines like Sports Illustrated and Time Life. He does landscape paintings and puts them in galleries and sells them. And what's really cool about my dad is how progressive he has been over the years. You guys remember back in the mid to late 90s when AOL was a thing and the internet was new and people were starting to go online, and you had like little tiny shops like Amazon that just sold books, and e-commerce was supposed to be the next wave. There were a lot of people of a certain generation who weren't really sure what to do with going online, and one thing that I've always been impressed with is my father was very progressive in that area, and he built a website very early on, which he still maintains today. He has a whole gallery website that he actually sells work through. It's amazing. Of course, he's embraced social media as well, but his business is run through his website. He is his own agent. He's not reliant on Instagram and their platform or Facebook and whatever they decide to do. And that's what I want to talk about a little bit today. Every now and then I like to share quotes in these videos. One you've heard me say before is my favorite. It deals with opportunity. Opportunity is often missed because it comes dressed in overalls and it looks like work. Now, that's not my dad's quote, that's Thomas Edison's quote, but it's one that my dad lives by, and he shared it with me years ago, and it's one that I've started to live by. And of course, that's the kind of thing I look up to my dad for. He always has very sage advice on things. And I'll tell you a very funny story. So back in the late 90s when the internet was new and we built that first website, I helped him do it. There were no platforms back then where you could build your own website. So we were hand coding HTML and the whole thing. A couple of years ago, he wanted me to update his website because that has to happen when you have a website. You want new work on there, you want new things. And I said, Dad, I don't have any time, but you might check out Squarespace. Back at that point, Squarespace, they were the first sponsor that I ever had doing these videos. Go back to 2009 with them, and they really do have an awesome platform. And I said, Dad, they're one of my sponsors. I think you should try it. And I gave him the spiel that I do in my sponsored videos. And so anyway, he tried it, and now he runs half his business off of his website, sells prints through there, and he can do it. It's pretty awesome. And so this is what I want to talk to you guys about today is what are you doing with your opportunities that you've got with the technology that we have today? I think we need to talk about personal portfolios and how we go about actually getting one online. So what I want to do right now is show you how easy it is to build a website on Squarespace. So I'm going to show you within the span of just a couple minutes here how we can build an entire website, have it ready to publish. At least it's a starting point. We can take it from there. It really is super easy. First thing you want to do is go to squarespace.com/AOP. I'll put that link in the show description under this video. I'm going to go ahead and close this right now. We're going to say get started. So the first thing Squarespace is going to ask us for is to pick a template. Now, the cool thing about Squarespace is you have your content and you have a template. Now, the template is the design of your site, and it's somewhat separated from the content. The cool thing about that is you decide you want to change your mind later and use a different template. It won't affect your content. You can just kind of plug and play. So they've got a ton of these. There's a ton of categories. What I'm going to do is select photography here, since this is going to be somewhat of a portfolio site. And you can scroll down and there are many available, and all of them look really great. There is one that I really like. It's called Minetta. And one thing you can do is you can go ahead and select and say, yes, I want to start with this template. Or if you're not sure and you want to see some features on it, I can select Preview Minetta. And this is going to bring up the preview screen. What's cool is the entire website runs inside the browser here. So it's kind of a site within a site. And what you can do is on the top left-hand side, there's little icons here. So I can preview what this is going to look like on a desktop, on a tablet, for instance, and even on a phone. So if you're on mobile, and this is really important and also really cool because you don't have to worry about your design working working on various devices. You can just build your site, concentrate on your content, and let Squarespace handle everything else. So once I think this is what I want to do, and like I said, you can always change it later, we're going to say start with this design. So this is the editor where we're going to actually build the website. And so we see a preview here on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, you have all of your links that go to various things for building pages and controlling your content and working on your settings. If at any time you want to expand this out so you can see what your website is looking like in the public view, the arrow on the upper right-hand corner will expand that out, and then this is the live website. So this is very cool. Obviously, there's some placeholder images. We're going to put our own here, and I can collapse that and go back to the edit view with the same arrow in the right-hand corner at the top. So when we created our template, Squarespace actually created a website that's kind of in a demo mode with some images and some dummy content, and we can use this as a starting point and actually go in and make changes here. So you're going to see at the top here, it says work, about, and contact. So this is a simple 3-page website. I'm going to close this assistant here, and what I want to do is edit these pages. Let's start with the portfolio, which is this work page here. So if you go under pages, and on the top left-hand side of the page preview, you're going to see this edit button. I'm going to go ahead and select that. Now, when I hover over any portion of this website, like for instance up at the top, it says edit site header. I can edit that, or down here, I can add a section, I can change this section, so on and so forth. So this is kind of how Squarespace is set up, is that things work in a series of blocks. And so we use a block editor to go in and change those things. We can move them around. What we're going to do here is these images aren't mine. I want to add my own. So what we're going to do is I'm going to add a section, then we'll go delete this one later. What we're going to do is say add section here, and it's going to bring up a bunch of options here. I can add headlines. There's a ton of categories here, quotes, so on and so forth. I'm going to select gallery. And what gallery will do is it'll bring up a series of templates that I can choose from, and there's a lot of different options. If you want a full bleed image, if you want no margin, no gutter, I'm going to pick this one here that is three columns here. So once we've done that, it goes ahead and drops some images in here. Now I can edit this if I click on this little image icon here, and you can see that it brings it up, and there are a bunch of images in here. I'm just going to click the trash can next to each one of these, and we're going to remove these images because I want to put my own images in here. So once we've cleared those out, this is like one of the easiest things in the world to do. I have a folder of images on my desktop called portfolio images. I'm going to select all of them, and I'm going to drag and drop here on top of the window here, and they're going to begin to upload, and it does everything behind the scenes. Now, when I exported these images from Lightroom, I just basically said, give me a JPEG that's full size. So it's going to actually take a minute because these are fairly large to upload everything. But the cool thing about this is that Squarespace handles everything in the background. So you don't have to go make versions of your images for different display types or different Retina displays or thumbnails. It's going to do all of this behind the scenes, which is super handy. All right, so the images have uploaded. You can see them beneath the floating window here that is the editor. One thing I want to do before we close this, there's a couple options that we've got. I can select any of these images. And the cool thing is I can add a description. I can actually hyperlink it to something if I want. I can edit the image, which is very cool. I'm going to show you the image editor. It's brand new. Let's say get started, and I can actually go change contrast, sharpness, highlights, all that stuff. Let's cancel out of here for a second. This is really cool because sometimes you can make changes on the fly if something doesn't look right once you get it in context of the website. So that's very cool. If I hover over the image, you're going to see the circle in the middle of the image, and I can drag this around. This is called the image focal point. What that is for is when, let's say, thumbnails are created from an image, and maybe it's a crop, a square format or something like that, and the focal point is not correct in the image, you can actually make that adjustment here, which is really cool. And then most important, if these are in the wrong order, and chances are they probably are because we just uploaded them from a folder, moving them around is as easy as just kind of dragging and dropping images in the order. And so I can order these in whatever way I want, which is very, very cool. So this couldn't be easier to set up and maintain. So that's creating an image gallery. Let's go ahead and close this window so we can preview our work. And you probably also recall, look, all the images made it in. They load progressively, which is very cool. So you don't have to sit here and wait 2 hours for the page to load. We have this section here that I don't need anymore. So what we're going to do is delete that. When I have my mouse over any section, you're going to see this contextual menu that pops up. I can move the section, I can duplicate the section, I can edit it. We're just going to hit the trash can and say, yes, remove this section. And guess what? And we're going to remove this one too because I really don't want the quote here. Let's say remove. But we now have our portfolio built. It couldn't be easier. And if I decide later that, you know, this image needs to be first, that one needs to be in the middle, I can rearrange these, do whatever I want. If I want to change the template, it'll all still be intact and still be there. So you can kind of see how cool this is. So what I want to do now is I want to show you how we can go in and we can actually customize the templates to make them more personalized, put our own stamp on it. There's essentially two ways that you can change the look of something. So one is to do it it on a local level. So we talked about how pages are made up of sections and these blocks. We can make edits there, and we can also make global edits. And these are things where, let's say we want to change the background for the entire website. There's a different space for that, or if we want to change fonts or typography. So the first way we do it is on a local level. So let's go onto our portfolio here, and I'm going to select Edit at the top here. And it's going to bring up this floating window here, which gives us some options. The first one is just the look of the gallery. I have options for the width on it. I can add columns to it. If I decide I want to make it a 4-column, or I want to scale back and even make it a 2-column, I can change that here. We can add captions. There's additional options, so on and so forth. Also, we have a tab here for colors. So I'm going to select that. And what we have here are basically these various themes that exist within our template. So we have a template that has a certain look that's set up to it with a certain kind of typography, and then I can change things with variations within that. And so that's what we're looking at here. Right now, the default on here is this darkest one that's selected. I can change it to a different dark look where we get a slightly lighter background, or let's say I want it to go completely bright. I can change it here. And so this could be different for different portfolios or different galleries, which is very cool. You can customize them all. I kind of like this lightest one right now. Let's stick with that. And I'm going to go ahead and say done, say save. And we'll save our changes here, and you can see that they are reflected here. Now, if I want to make changes like to, let's say, the fonts we're using, something like that, I want to do this on the global level. And so let me show you where you would go to do this. So I'm going to go back home. Here on the navigation, we're going to select design. It's the second one down. Once I've selected that, we have this new thing called site styles, and this is really cool. It's really simple. This is one thing I love about all these templates is they are very clean and they are very simple, and so it's really easy to go in and make changes. So if I want to change a font, there's my section to do that. The default here is this font called Orpheus Pro. I can change everything up, customize it exactly how I want. Let's say we want a different color on there for something. I can edit the palettes. Here's all those themes that we talked about a second ago that are in here. I can customize each one of those. Let's go back. I'll actually change the font here so you can see what it does. So let's say fonts. I'm going to say switch my font. And we get a little preview of each one of them. Let's say that I want something that's a little more like this. And we now have a different header at the top of the screen here. So it's really easy to go make these changes. If you get kind of far in, you felt like you've experimented too much, you can discard your changes or you can save them and move on. It's all up to you. What we're going to do here is discard these for now. I'll say confirm. And we're going to go back out. So we've looked at a really quick way to set up a website and go ahead and build a gallery and customize the look, but we have barely scratched the surface on what is available on Squarespace's platform. This is another reason I would suggest that you guys go check out this free trial. I want to show you a couple things on here. If we go back home, you're going to see there's way more that we haven't even hit yet. Like, first of all, e-commerce, marketing, scheduling, you can do now, analytics, so you can actually look at the traffic you're getting on your website if you're trying to monitor that and you're trying to build an audience. You know, a couple things come to mind, and one of which is we have talked a lot in recent videos about some of the frustrations that photographers, filmmakers have with the current state of social media, whether you're on Instagram, whether you're on YouTube. The reality is that when you're on Instagram, let's just say, and you're building your audience there, you're not really building your audience, you're borrowing Instagram's audience. And so when you think of what you can do with a website and all the things that are possible with that, where you have an opportunity here to actually build your own platform, Squarespace is an awesome place to do that. And literally anything you can think of in here, like for instance, e-commerce. I did a workshop a couple years ago with my friend Hugh Brownstone. You guys might remember when we did that in New York. It was before the pandemic hit. It was the year before. And we handled all the e-commerce transactions through Squarespace. It really is that easy. And I remember when I started out, like in the late 90s, early 2000s, when the web was fairly new and building websites was fairly crude, to do stuff like e-commerce and to be able to do CRM and integrate with MailChimp and mailing services and all this, that would have cost a fortune to do back then, if you could even do some of it at all. E-commerce was really expensive back then, and Squarespace have all that built into this. Which brings me to another point that I want to make about the idea of opportunities. It's another thing that I like to talk about a lot. You know, we live in a different world now than we did even, I would say, 5 years ago, and what we're seeing with technology and what we're able to do with that, I think that there's so many times where we get so close to the forest we can't see the trees on that stuff. And so I would really encourage you guys today to start thinking about what you're doing with photography or whatever it is that you do, your business, your personal stuff, your passions. Think of those in a slightly larger context and how far can you take those? Where do you want to push them? And start using some of these tools to be able to do that. We all get glued into the social media realm. And I just mentioned this because I've done several videos on this lately where I've addressed a lot of the common frustrations that a lot of photographers have with these platforms. And it's maybe time to start thinking why you're unique, what makes you unique, and what you have to offer, and start looking at maybe building a platform where you can express that. So anyway, go check out Squarespace. Let me know what you guys think. I would love to know, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Until then, later.